Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Dr. JACALYN Kerbeck, and I am thrilled and honored to be here today for this episode of Resume Whisper and Corporate Culturalist with Mr. Josef Stetter. He's joining us from Canada, and our topic today is acing the interview. So I want you to just sit back, relax, get out a paper and pen, type something, get ready to be wowed and dazzled with what you're about to hear. Welcome to the program, Josef.
Thank you very much. An honor to have you. And hi, everybody.
It's so nice to have you back. This show has been really informative. There's so many people out there who are looking for work, or maybe they're in a job or a career that they're really not happy, and they're using old techniques, old mindsets. And you've helped over 11,000 people. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And
It's
continue.
amazing. So you are an expert in this field of helping people find a new career, helping people write a resume, and helping people ace their interview.
Yes. As part of being the Resume Whisperer, I provide full services on ideas and strategies, tips, tricks, techniques to really make the whole experience of finding a job that much easier.
And as you know, for many people, changing careers, getting a new job is one of the most stressful things that people can do in their life. And you're here to mitigate that stress.
Correct, because at the end of the day, look, just like there is experts in marketing, there's experts in accounting, there's lawyers that have expertise in different things. My gift, my blessing from God is to help people understand their value and how to communicate that value not only on their resume, but in the process of getting hired through an interview. And so there's a lot of little things that, in combination of me switching careers and working in recruiting and kind of just learning about the industry so much, that I kind of went, I don't understand why we're still doing this or why we're still asking this. But, it happens. Like, for example, most interviews start with what I consider to be one of the most loaded, useless questions you can have, which is, Dr. JACALYN, tell me about yourself. And most people start rambling about the fact that, they love to travel, or they love to read, or they have a beautiful family, which has nothing to do with the job. So if you ever ask this wonderfully useless, loaded question, I want you to take a deep breath before you answer. Look them in the eyes, or right above the eyebrows for those of you who are shy, or it is against your cultural beliefs to look directly into the eyes. If you look right above the eyebrows, it looks like you're looking into the eyes. It gives the person the respect that they deserve, especially in North America, but it doesn't go against your own personal beliefs, which means you'll actually be more confident and more comfortable. Smile and say, where would you like me to begin? Whatever the company tells you to begin, they've just given you a hint that this is what's important to them. This is what you're probably going to be doing on the job. Why? Because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't care to ask you about it or to ask you to talk about it to start the interview.
such an excellent point. I was going to ask you, should you try to qualify where it is you're supposed to begin? So many times in the process of getting hired, there's the dreaded phone interview, and you've got to get past the phone interview before you can actually go and meet with someone in person. What tips do you have? What direction if you have to go through a phone interview? Can you say, hey, I'm not really interested. I want to come to the office. Can you take the aggressive approach, or do you follow the program?
No, you can follow the program, but again, there's ways that you can control your energy. Like, for example, even though you're speaking on the phone, smile, because when you smile, it can be projected in the way that you speak rather than, hi, yes, it's okay. Second of all, one of the biggest mistakes that most people in an interview make is that they give me generic sentences like, I have experience with this, I have knowledge with this, but they don't get into the heart of who they are and the value that they bring. So I love to use these two examples, and I think I've shared them before. But if someone is applying to be a receptionist somewhere, and they come to an employer and say, "I know how to answer the phone," I hope the employer looks at them in shock and goes, "Really? A receptionist that knows how to answer the phone? We did not know that." Because unless you live in an igloo, a cave, or practice the faith of Mennonite, most people in North America know how to press the green button, go, hello, how can I help you? However, if a receptionist came to me and said, in my last job, I answered 60 calls a day with 12 different lines, I can measure 60 calls a day with 12 different lines. Similar for my career, I can say, I'm an excellent salesperson. I know how to do B2B, B2C, account management, relationship building, lead generation. I've worked in retail. I've done door-to-door sales. I've done car sales. I've worked in private education. I've worked in recruiting. I'm a great salesperson. Now, I've used a lot of terminology that the job boards require you to have in order to match the algorithm, get hit. But if that's all I share with you, I've just told you that I've worked in sales. I haven't really told you if I'm any good at it. When I start giving you examples, and again, in my case, for example, I worked for a private college that before I came in generated $530,000 in sales for the entire year. In 1 month, I generated $860,000 in sales for them. Now, which one is going to impress you more that I know how to sell? All the lingo or the results that I gave? Most people in an interview, whether it's phone or face-to-face, ramble on, I'm a team player, I'm hardworking, I know how to do X, Y, and Z. I don't care. And when I say I mean employers. They don't care. They want to know that you can produce results. So take any profession, right? If you're a software developer, tell me kind of projects that you were involved in. What was it that you needed to fix or change or create if you're a programmer? Tell me what technologies you've used to do it, and then tell me the results of the project. You finished it ahead of schedule. You finished under budget. You finished it, it increased efficiency by 20%. It, whatever you want to call it. It's a way of distinguishing yourself from everybody else to prove that they definitely want to talk to you. And this is something across the board that most people don't do.
Thank you, Joseph. I really appreciate those comments. And what I'm wondering is, again, on the scenario that it's the initial interview, which is a phone interview, many times it's with human resources.
Mhm.
And at the end of the call, the interview, the person will say, well, here's what you can expect, blah, 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 blah. At that point, can you just say, Joseph, I know I'm bringing value to you. I know I'm a perfect fit. I'd like to just go right to the head to the next. Can you be aggressive and assertive, or should you just say, okay, thank you, HR. I'll look forward to someone getting back to me?
Again, I think it's a combination of confidence, not necessarily aggressive. Because if I'm confident that I'm producing results, I have to understand HR, unfortunately, many, especially on the recruiting side of HR in the corporate level, are more of kind of paper pushers. They have a checklist of what they need to check. You said you're hardworking, or you said you're a team player, and they have a check mark for it. In many cases, they don't necessarily know the wide variety of roles that they're interviewing for. So it is your job to spoon feed them, whether it's a phone interview or face-to-face interview, the details that they can give to the director, for example, to make the decision. So if I take, let's say, engineering, right, and mechanical engineering as an example. If you say mechanical engineering terms and then you quantify it using STAR, ADA, SMART, whatever formula that you've been taught or that you're familiar with for interviewing, that says, here was a situation, here's the task that I was assigned to do, here's the action I took, and here are the results that I produced. The moment that you have the results there, even if HR does not understand what you are doing or how you're doing it, they will record the information you said that says, here's kind of the task and the action that I took in terms of technology or resources, and here's the results I produced. Any executive can look at the results and go, these are the results that we need. They're matching what we need, or we need better results, whatever the case may be. But if you have results, you have a standard.
Okay, I hope everybody took notes and wrote that down. So you make it past the phone interview, and now you're going to come in and meet potentially with the hiring manager.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get yourself prepared emotionally, physically to do the best that you can? And should you bring any materials with you? Should you bring your certificates? Should you bring your Achievers Club awards, a box of awards with you?
Again, if you've written your resume correctly, that should already be highlighted on your resume. If you have kind of a highlight reel of your resume, review it. Make sure that you know how to talk about. Make sure that you can give details, right? So the better you are at giving details, understand that the essence of every interview question is, simply put, can you make the company more money? Can you save them more money? Or can you increase your efficiency? So I'm assuming that everybody in the world has heard of an individual by the name of Bill Gates. Bill Gates has a non-for-profit foundation that has, I believe, approximately $100 billion. I might be wrong on the specific number. However, every single month, he still fundraises for his charitable organization so that when he passes, his legacy can keep on way past his life because of the amount of money in the foundation and the work that the foundation is doing. So your job as an interviewee is to relate that your education, your experiences, your knowledge, your ability to come up with solutions is going to produce results that's going to help the company's bottom line, whether it's make money, save money, or increase efficiency. So depending on the role, make money, usually sales and marketing. Save money, accounting, engineering. Increase efficiency, IT, automation, things like that. So no one's hiring you because there's an empty chair. The main things is that there are certain rules in an interview that most people often forget or dismiss, that even though they're not being spoken of, they're there. So starting with your appearance. If you have crinkled clothes, if you have dirty shoes, if you look frazzled, off the bat, there's an impression of you. Right now, if something happened, like there was an accident and so forth, just acknowledge that, because it gets rid of the pink elephant in the room. If you are a smoker and you smoke before the interview, that might cost you the interview. I'm personally allergic to cigarettes. So if somebody smoked and the smell is really strong, it will bother me when I'm interviewing a candidate, and I might dismiss them because they didn't pay attention. People are very sensitive to perfumes today, or eau de colognes, or whatever you want to call them. In some cultures, like for example, in India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Nepal, it's very common, for Bangladesh, it's very common for men to wear multiple rings on their fingers. And I understand and I appreciate that those are culturally relevant, right? Because one of them is your spirituality, and one of them is for health, and one of them is for wealth, and so forth. But in Western society, when a man shows up with like 8 rings on his fingers, it looks odd. So there's a level where wear 1 or 2, put the rest of them in your pocket so that they're still physically on you, but you're not going against the standards of Western society in North America, right? So those are little things in terms of being aware of catch-22s, right? Most interviews will ask you, what is your strength? And like robots, most people answer, I'm hardworking, I'm dedicated, I'm committed, I'm a team player with excellent communication skills. Okay, how do you measure hardworking? How do you measure committed? Is there a standard? Is there an evaluation for it? No, there isn't. I've met plenty of people that have horrible communication, but are still gainfully employed. So it's a generic term that's kind of thrown around willy-nilly. So if you're asked about your strengths, don't just give the words, give specific examples. I worked for this company, we were behind schedule. I worked an entire week, at least 3 hours of overtime to make sure that we finished the project on time and on budget. Now you've demonstrated hardworking, dedicated, committed team player without actually wasting time and energy saying those words. And going to your point, Dr. JACALYN, HR will record what you said to check mark that you met the formula. Similar for your weakness question. Most people hate this question. Understand that the weakness question is designed to see that if you do something incorrectly or something that needs to be changed, that you're not going to go postal on them because they gave you feedback or constructive criticism. So most people that answer the weakness questions go, oh, I'm a perfectionist, I'm too hard on myself. You know, it's generic. And so the interviewer will understand that you're trying to give a textbook answer. Here's 2 ways to answer that question that make you look much better. The first is to use a little bit of humor. Okay, comedians do this, especially when they're going to tell a controversial or potentially racist joke. So they'll create a character. So I'm married. I can say, well, you know what? My wife tells me I'm perfect. But if I had to think of something, I would say my technical aptitude with advanced Excel, for example. By saying that my wife thinks I'm perfect, if I've done a good job building relationship and kind of interacting with my interviewer, they'll probably smile, maybe even chuckle a little bit at the fact that I'm poking fun of myself. And when I poke fun of myself, it demonstrates that I'm confident enough in myself that I understand I'm not perfect and that there's always room for improvement because I can handle making fun of myself. And so I won't react necessarily if somebody says something to me. The second way of answering the weakness question is what I call the past, present, future rule. So rather than explaining it, let me give you an example. In the past, I used to have a problem with time management. Then I worked for company ABC on a team of 8 people where we were required to do something that there was constantly new tasks being added to the project. If not only did we not communicate properly, but if my work didn't get done properly, none of my colleagues or coworkers' work could get done. So we had to learn how to prioritize our work in a great way. We had to learn how to communicate clearly and effectively so that everybody knows what's going on. We finished the project ahead of schedule, $100,000 under budget. We got recognized as one of the best teams in the company. And because of this experience at company ABC, I can assure you that if you hired me, time management would not be a problem. And I would do whatever it takes to make your great company more money. Now, if you look at what I did, I took a negative, I gave an example that made it positive and said that it was improved, so it is no longer a problem. That is the correct way to answer the weakness question because you're controlling the conversation. Similarly, this is kind of an oxymoron, but most people fail in this question. If you are asked, do you know how to do this? The autoresponder answer that we have been programmed to say is no, but I'm a really quick learner. In nearly 20 years of recruiting, I have never met anyone that said no, and it will probably take me 2 years to figure out what you want me to do. Everybody's a quick learner. So never say no. Say, here's an example of a similar technology or a similar process in which I had to do X, Y, and Z. Here's the results that I produce. And because of that, I'm confident that I can produce the same, if not better results for your company. Now you haven't said no, you've said yes. And that could be the difference between you being hired or not.
I'm really appreciating these examples that you're giving. It's making me think back to when I was in corporate, when I was going through the interview process. Let's take it a step further. From when I was in corporate, there were multiple people I had to meet with to get to the final interview. I think there were 8 different stages. There were tests I had to take, and I had to have.
Were you applying for Microsoft?
No, no. But in the industry that I was in, that was pretty much the standard. And then you had to have a meal with you and your significant other, and then the hiring manager and their spouse. But here's where I want to go with it. So you're set up for a specific time. Your interview is between 9 and 10. And I know from the past, you could meet at the airport. Maybe you're meeting at a restaurant. Maybe you're meeting at the office. Wherever it is you're meeting, you've got that 1 hour of time. And there could be distractions. I remember when I was interviewing with this vice president that the phone kept ringing over and over and over again, and he wasn't answering. It was a test. So here's my question for you. Wherever it is you were meeting this person, you've done some research about their background. Do you spend any amount of time trying to connect with, Joseph? I know that you really like to go fishing, and I hear the fishing in Canada is terrific this time of year. Do you go into those types of things, or do you go right into it? Thank you for this opportunity, blah, blah, blah.
So you have to go into a little bit of rapport building always, but don't spend 45 minutes on it, right? Spend a few minutes, acknowledge it. It's very important. Like, if you're meeting in the office and you see a photo of the family, acknowledge that, or the decor of the office itself. If you're meeting in a coffee shop, hey, thank you for meeting me here. And I'm very excited about, sharing ideas. I did some research and I know that the company does this or you do this. Can you tell me a little bit about that? It is amazing how many opportunities can come your way when you start asking questions. There's an old adage in English that says, questions are the answer. If you can ask your interviewer a few questions, they might get an impression of you without having to ask you a lot of questions by the questions you've asked them. There used to be a great cartoon called Animaniacs that Steven Spielberg created. And on the show, there was a character called Mindy. It was this little blonde girl that that the dog was babysitting, and she would just kind of start wandering, and of course the dog's chasing her, trying to protect her, and she would come to a stranger and say, "What are you doing?" And the person would say whatever they're saying. She'll say, "Why?" And the person will say whatever they're saying, and she'll say, "Why?" And the person will give her an answer, and she'll say, "Why?" And the person will give her an answer, and she'll go, "Okay, I love you, bye-bye," and walk away. My daughter's 3.5 years old. She does that. So she's like, are we going here? I'm like, no, it's not weekend yet. Why? And it's amazing. If you ask why 3 times, the amount of details you can get from someone. So even in an interview, you have to understand that as much as a company is interviewing you for the job, you're also interviewing them. At the end of each round of interviewing, you should be asking 3 to 10 questions of the person, questions about the role itself, like where does this role fit in the organizational chart or on, priority of projects that are being done, for example. Three of my favorite questions to ask at the end of an interview are, if I were hired tomorrow, what is the first thing I can do to make an immediate impact? And just pause and let them talk. And whatever they say, even if you've given them examples throughout the interview, repeat it to them and say, well, as I mentioned earlier, I have done this, this, and this, and I've produced these kinds of results, and I'm confident that I can do it even better for you. Another great question that I love is, what would you say is the biggest obstacle for success in this position? And whatever obstacles they give you, reiterate your examples and show them that it won't be an obstacle for you because you know how to do it and you can handle it. And the third question that I love asking, and obviously I have a whole list of them, of good and better questions that you can ask, is of other people that have held this role or currently hold this role, what are some of the characteristics that you would like to see repeated? They'll tell you who they like working with. And if you really want to know if you're getting the job, ask them, and how do you see me fitting in? If they hesitate, they stutter, they need to think about it, you're not getting the job. If they're giving you an answer right away, congratulations, you're a top runner for the opportunity.
So many gems that you just shared there. So what I had always been coached on was, when you're coming to the end of the interview, what questions do you have for me? I'm wondering, based on what you've seen and heard here from me today, what red flags might there be that would hold you back from hiring me? That's kind of a negative, but I was always told that to put it out there so they can tell you, okay, well, you're not really a good fit because we were looking for this. And then you can handle the objections. What do you think of that?
So it's the same question that the third question is, of other people that have held or hold this position. What are the characteristics that you want to see repeated? And then how do you see me fitting in? I would avoid the negative question because it focuses the mind on negative. Understand that if you can prove that you have ideas, that you have solutions, and that your ideas and solutions will produce results, that's the standard. You're the standard that everybody else has to measure up to, right? If you've done a better job of showing the combination of that, you're the one that's getting hired. If you haven't, then again, there's an interaction where, again, in the interview, there's a science. If somebody's leaning in, it's because they're emphasizing something is important. Mimic them. So if they're leaning in to tell you something, lean in to listen. If they're a little bit more back on their chair, a little bit more relaxed, don't go overboard in terms of, feet up on the table, but be a little bit more relaxed in your posture because you're looking at your cues of interaction, right? And again, interviewing in essence is a lot like dating, right? Nowadays, everybody meets somebody online. Majority of people, not everybody. I should correct myself, right? Many people meet online. So you're reacting to a picture. Some, like myself, when I was single, actually read the profile so that I can come up with something interesting to say to you, as opposed to, hey, how's it going? Kind of thing, because you get lost in saying, you've seen this. Interviewing is no difference. Once you're interviewed, again, whether it's one interview or three interviews, it's like first date, second date, third date. You always have to come back with something better, something original. So if you've already talked about these examples, you can use the same example on one side to demonstrate your ingenuity and creativity, and another side to show what a team player you are. So say what you did for the team. It makes a difference, right? So again, the interview, there's always nuances to react. So for example, one of the biggest, I will call, style of trap questions is, was there a coworker you didn't get along with? Or did you like your boss? Or have you ever disagreed with anybody at work? Or any variation of that, because for some reason in the English language, we keep finding ways to ask the exact same thing in 32 different ways, right? So generally speaking, in the interview, whether they say, tell me, give me, describe, How would you? What would you? If this happened, compare these two. In this case or situation, how would you handle this? Right? Or hypothetically speaking, it's all the exact same question. They're asking you, can you prove to me that you can make me money, save me money, or increase my efficiency? So if they're asking you about difficulty with a coworker, they're looking to see if your physiology goes, oh no, I was fine. I got along with her, because that, if you saw my face, was angry, not, yeah, no, everything's fine. If you learn to communicate that says, listen, for example, I have an expressive type of personality. If I'm dealing with someone who's more analytical and I'm working with them, I need to change or adapt my communication style to be more analytical so that we both understand each other and we're both here to make the company more money and help the company grow. So we need to work together. So it's a matter of changing the communication style, not clashing or arguing. Okay. There's always a positive spin on any negative situation. You know what? Yes, there were disagreements because we had different ideas of how to approach the solution. At the end of the day, I'm open to listening, and my job is to produce results. So, depending on the role, in some cases, you might have more leeway and creativity to solve a problem, and in others, you don't, right? So, any job, I'll take accounting. Somebody can figure out ways to automate. Somebody can figure out ways to use software to make the data entry faster and more accurate. Somebody can figure out ways to preset categories of work. Somebody can figure out ways to make things in engineering more aerodynamical, m- carrying a bigger load. All those are terminologies in the industry. But again, what are the results that you produced that make you better, different, or other than everybody else?
You are just taking all of the mystery away so people really know what to expect. Here's a question that sometimes can throw people off, and I'm just wondering if you can give us the proper way to answer it. Joseph, tell me what you know about our organization. And people can come back. I know you're publicly traded, you're number 2 in the industry, et cetera, et cetera. Or should you come in with something that really shows you've researched the company and it's not something that everybody can just find on an annual report?
Again, even if they looked at an annual report, you have to. It's interesting because I just left lecturing at a university on similar ideas. So here's the thing: I'm going to use the profession of data science, which is a massive industry right now that's expanding in every direction. As a homeowner, when my wife and I looked for a house to buy, we looked at, is it in a good neighborhood? Is it close to like shopping? Relatively close to my mother, her mother. Um, and are there decent schools in the neighborhood? And then obviously price point of what we can afford and so forth. As an investor in real estate, you're looking at what is the average income of the people, what are the professions that people work in, what is the crime rate, is there any other let's say condo construction, is there any like malls or stores construction that will help increase the value. So the level of analysis that you're doing is a lot more in depth. So understand that you can go on their website and read, you can look on Google and find a few articles. Even if you have the same information, it's how you word the question or how you ask questions. So I know you guys are, you mentioned, let's say, number 2 in the industry, right? What do you think is one of the best strategies that this company has implemented to grow year over year so well? And again, you're not asking for trade secrets. You're asking for, let's say, the executive, especially if you've gotten to that level, the hiring manager, to brag about how brilliant they are. And when they do, they're going to like you a lot more because you gave them opportunity to do something that they rarely do, which is highlight why they're great and why they're the leader and why they know how to execute strategies, because you're asking them what made you so successful, or what's the, biggest accomplishment that you've personally contributed as part of the growth of this company.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I like that approach. What about when you're at the end of the interview and you say, how do you see me fitting in? And they give the answer. Do you then say, okay, where's the paperwork? I'm ready to get started.
I think it depends on the company and it depends on the industry. It's not something that I would say is for certain for each company or each role, because even though the director might say, I love you, they might still have to go through HR for the semantics of the paperwork, to talk about salary. In some cases, they'll offer it to you right on the spot. In some cases, they want to surprise you with it. Salary is one of my favorite questions. I know we're kind of running out of time, so maybe that will be another show to discuss salary and negotiation and what can be negotiated in this day and age, especially after the pandemic, where there's work from home, there's hybrid, there's a multitude of things that could be negotiated into your job experience. And understand that at the end of the day, if there's excitement in both ends, then whether it happens verbally or it happens thereafter where they send you, there's always things to come back. Like if you're asking, like if they offered you, for simplicity, I'm going to say $115,000 salary, and you come back and say 120, I would really appreciate 120, because if you think that the examples I gave you are good and the results I'm going to produce are going to give you significant return of investment, to me, it's a personal thing to kind of be at this next level of salary. If they're giving you a hard time over $5,000, don't walk away from that company, run. Because if your $120,000 salary is going to generate a few $1 million for them, who cares about that 5,000? At the end of the day, it's a semantics things, because per paycheck, given that in North America, there's a every 2-week pay structure model, we're talking about maybe an extra $500 before taxes, right? If that's breaking their bank, that company's in a lot of trouble, right? But there are ways that, again, if you've highlighted, these are the results I produce, this is my technical knowledge, these are my abilities to solve problems and create solutions, they're not going to care about $5,000, because you're going to give them a lot more value. And when they give you that $5,000, you're going to be happier. So you're going to have incentive to work harder.
Josef, in addition to the salary question, and I'll leave us with this for today, one major breaking point, and it was all the way back to when I was, I think, in my first or second job of corporate, is people want to work from home. That's a deal breaker. And I've been reading more and more about how companies are bringing people back into the office. So you get everything you want, except you have to work in the office. Do you then go through all the value that you're going to bring, and you can bring this value from home because you're disciplined, you have time management, or you just say, you know what, this isn't the place for me?
So again, it also depends on where you are in life, and you have to you can negotiate that maybe you'll start the first 3 months in the office and then do like 2 days from home. And if the productivity is still there or better, there's room for negotiation to have more opportunity to work from home, or a larger percentage of work from home. But again, everybody has different value systems. I was recruiting for a cybersecurity individuals in the banking world. I found a guy that was making $120,000. I had one of my client basically offered him $180,000 with the request or the condition that he comes into the office once a week. And he looked at me, goes, yeah, I'm not sure if a $60,000 raise, or half my salary currently, is worth coming into the office once a week. And I just kind of looked at him and went, why did you not communicate this to me in the first, second, or third interview? This was on the fourth interview where they offered you, like, they knew that you were making $120,000. They offered you $180,000 $100,000 with a 25% bonus incentive, which never happens in banks. He said no, and he didn't want the job. So at the end of the day, when I interview candidates, I always ask them, or I love to ask them this question: security, income, growth, or happiness? Which one would you put first? If the answer is security, then you'll take the raise and you'll take the opportunity because you want to have the job. And if security means going to the office, that's what you have to do. If the answer is income, you're driven by the money. So at a $60,000 raise, that should kind of give you enough reason to do it. If your answer is growth, you want to know that you can get promoted in the opportunity, that there's room for you to have ideas, to have solutions, to be the expert that everybody goes to. And if happiness is your key factor, and for you, happiness is not being stuck in traffic, then you're not going to take the job, right? It's not a good or bad. It's not a right or wrong. It's a matter of where you are in life, what your values are, and what your priorities are, right? If someone says, we'll need you in the office, but we have flexible hours. So if you want to come in at 7 a.m. and leave by 3 p.m. so that you still have the rest of the day, as long as work gets done, we're happy. I have a friend that does that. He's an architect. So he comes to the office before everybody else. He comes in at 6:30, 7 a.m. and he leaves by 3 so that he has his day. So there's always ways of compromising where both of you get what you want. But again, it depends on what your values are and where you are in life. That determines whether or not working from home is the only solution or you're flexible and willing to consider other things.
Josef, thank you for answering all of my questions. It's been another fabulous episode. I have so many more questions that I could ask you.
Let's do a part 2 then. We'll do a part 2 next week.
I think for part 2 next week, maybe one of the questions we can look at, because I know this happens. The person who's applying gets the job, and then when they are about to start, they start listing some things that they never disclosed in the interview process. For example, they already have a couple vacations planned, or they're planning on moving somewhere that's they're going to have to work like I've heard it all. And then the hiring manager is kind of like, wait a minute, we went through all this. We gave you the opportunity. So I'd love to have you talk about that in one of our
upcoming. But this is why most companies also have probation for 3 to 6 months to make sure that you're a good fit. Second thing is, and it's a catch-22, and I'll answer it this way without going into too much details. At the end of the day, it's the interviewer's job to ask you the right questions. So if they never ask you, do you have any vacations planned? You don't necessarily need to disclose that before the job, because that could be a deciding factor that you might be the best candidate. But when you say I have a vacation, they might go, well, we don't want to take a chance that you're going to be away for 2 weeks, so we're not going to hire you. So again, it is the responsibility of the company to also ask those kind of questions to make sure that there's as little surprises as possible, and do their due diligence. I mean, we live in a world that's gone in part completely crazy with what's going on in the world right now. And so if you choose to, let's say, post on your social media messages, videos that are very controversial, companies have the right to let you go because it might affect their reputation. It might affect their business. So, and more companies, before they make you the offer, they do their due diligence to check your social media to make sure that they kind of know what they're getting themselves into. You know, life happens. You can't control that. I mean, forgive me for using this example, but I know that your mother passed away recently. And so your mother passing away recently and you need some time off, that's not something that, yes, you can say your mom is sick and you might need to have flexibility in some of the hours to go take care of her at work. Any company that doesn't understand that is kind of heartless and you don't want to work there. And so you've presented it not, I'm going to be taking time off, but I need flexibility. the fact that your mom passed away is not something that was part of the interview process. So it shouldn't be held against you, for example. And there has to be the human factor. And this is why I also offer services as a corporate culturist, because a lot of companies have forgotten the importance of the human factor to build their team, to understand that, yes, we can look at an Excel spreadsheet and make a number bigger, but people need the coffee break. People need the water cooler conversation. People need to go to the bathroom. So if you're creating expectations that are so aggressive in terms of productivity that people can't go to the bathroom, people are afraid to take a break, in the long run, your productivity, your morale, your corporate culture, your turnover is going to be very high. Your morale is going to be low, and your corporate culture is going to suck. And people aren't going to want to work for you. And the people that are working for you because they need the paycheck are going to be just productive enough not to get fired versus wanting to perform for the company.
And that is a great place for us to close for tonight. Let us take a look at your website, which is your name, JosefStetter.com. How can people reach out to you, and who would you like to contact you?
Again, so all social medias, I'm Josef Stetter. It's very easy to find me. I'm very active mainly on LinkedIn and Facebook. We still have Instagram, TikTok, but not as active on it. Again, I serve, generally speaking, white collar professionals, your accountants, your finance people, your data science, your engineers, your IT professionals, both hardware and software, your pharmaceutical, your medical, people that are kind of, looking at those corporate gigs. So within that, again, part of what I do and part of my genius is to help articulate, not only on your resume, but also on your LinkedIn, to help you interview in ways that, there's a reason that I've helped 30 people land their dream job in as little as 2 days, right? Because they understood the systems, they understood the tricks, they understood the tips, they understood what questions to ask at the end of the interview, and they came with the confidence that they have a lot to offer, and companies saw it right away. And I continue to do that on a daily basis, and that's why I'm excited about what I do and the fact that I can give back. And even this podcast is an opportunity for me to share my wisdom and help more people get where they need to get faster, to take care of their families, to, believe that what they do, their genius, their gift, is needed by individual companies.
And Josef, I truly appreciate that you are showing up in a big way. You're holding nothing back, and you're telling people how it is. And everything that you've shared tonight is really, it's a way to differentiate yourself from everybody else out there. So for people who are interested in reaching out to you, they can go to your website. We've been posting your information throughout the show, and you'll be back again next Thursday with more information.
Correct. In case I'm hoping not too many are blind, the logos behind also are ways to get a hold of me as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please, at a minimum, go over to Josef's LinkedIn and connect with him. He is here to help you. He could be anywhere else at this time, and yet he is here because he wants to bring value and help you with your career and with your job search. So thanks again. We'll be back tomorrow with our regular schedule, and Josef and I'll be back next Thursday. See you then. Bye.
Bye, everyone.